Just one day off. That's all I wanted. One day off. Uno day off. But they dragged me right back in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is one Leeds. I wouldn't have been back on here if we hadn't have had just such a groundbreaking bombshell-esque article which has been released, and we're going to get into the finer details of it, everybody. But it's even took me by surprise, this article. If you aren't aware, obviously we'll get into it through the video, everybody. But welcome back, welcome one, welcome all. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. How are you feeling today? I think it's about my first time off the booze, and I'm kind of wanting to get back on it and celebrate again. But no, I won't. Calm down, Connor, calm down. But yeah, listen, everybody, as you can see by the title, you can see by the video, this is something that I didn't expect to make, to be honest, today, especially just a couple of days after what has happened. If you aren't aware, and we'll get into your comments, so just keep getting them in, everybody, but Daniel Farke has just taken Leeds back to the Premier League, and the club might sack him. What is happening at Ellen Road? Now, if you are unaware and you have been living under a rock for the past however many minutes or however many hours, we're gonna get into exactly what's been said, what's happened. Can we trust it? Do we trust any of this sort of stuff? Is it poppycock? Is it a lot of rubbish? Or is it something that has a little bit more sustenance to it than we believe? So if you aren't aware, Mike McGrath, who we've had on the channel before, Mike is normally very good. And a key thing to note with Mike, he works for the Daily Mail. Obviously, I know you guys will have maybe different opinions on the Mail, and as do I. But the Mail, obviously Mike works for them, and Mike has got quite a few things right when the 49ers have been in and around Leeds United, especially when they took a major stake in the club, with getting a hell of a lot right when it comes to the 49ers. I think it's pretty obvious that the 49ers may be leaking bits and bats to the Mail. I think that's pretty obvious now, with the amount sort of Mike has been drip fed by them, all the way back to just even, Leeds appealing things in the last couple of years, and even in the Premier League when they had a minority stake. It was bits and bats on what the 49ers plans were, who they were going up against to get almost like get the minority stake in at Leeds United, who that, and leaking information like that to the Mail. The 49ers up against, state bid to take minority control of Leeds United, almost stoking up that interest and pushing a decision to be made. These have all been broken by Mike, and there's loads of other things there as well. So I wouldn't come on here and normally do this if it was, because it's a specific video just on this today. If it was literally just with the greatest level of respect, some of the rags that we do read, and the rags that we'll talk about, won't we, in the transfer period, because we all want rumours. We all want to talk about these Premier League footballers and all the signings and all this sort of stuff, and that's what we're excited about, isn't it? So we'll be going through all the guff, and we'll be doing rumour raters and all that sort of stuff, and hopefully some of them might come to fruition. But normally this lot are pretty decent. They are pretty decent, or Mike in himself is pretty decent when it comes to the reports, and I think there might be someone potentially leaking a few bits to him. It just on the face of it, if you haven't seen it as well, everybody, will just rack this up right now. So as you can see, it's been an unbelievable period for the club, but Leeds United could sack Daniel Farke, who won the promotion to the Premier League just 2 days ago, as US-based owners look at candidates to take his job, which is crazy ruthless. Leeds United are considering making a stunning managerial change, despite Daniel Farke leading the club back to the Premier League. Mail Sport understands that Ellen Road bosses harbour reservations that the former Norwich City boss is the man to ensure what is viewed as top flight survival. No final decision has been made, so obviously we need to keep an eye on that one. And there is an awareness that such a controversial move could well backfire, at least with the club supporters. But other candidates are being examined ahead of what is a pivotal moment for the club. So before we get into a little bit more of that, it's interesting from my perspective in terms of looking at that and some of the language that's being used. So if we just have a look at that again, I think this is quite interesting. There is an awareness that such a controversial move could well backfire. Now, in terms of on the pitch, of course, that's a big thing. But I think that this is quite interesting when this is being released, with 2 games left. Leeds on the verge of winning the title as well, top of the division. I think maybe it's been put out there and it's been leaked, and it's been put out there by, not by Mike. Mike is a journalist. He's doing what he's paid to do. But I wonder if it's been leaked by the 49ers to the Mail, and it's all speculative. I'm hypothesizing a little bit here as well to maybe gauge a reaction and gauge what is the Leeds opinion. And we're going to get into the Leeds opinion, which has been quite interesting, especially with sort of Twitter isn't a great barometer of level-headedness, but still, it's been quite interesting. I thought there'd be a lot of bite back to this. There has been, but there has also been a lot of, oh yeah, let's get this done, like almost sack him. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section below regarding this as well. But I think they are putting it out there a little bit as well to just gauge the fanfare and the opinion. And we'll just share this again, shall we? Just get a little bit more on it. Okay, Farke is the most successful manager in the history of the Championship, having led both Norwich and Leeds to promotion. His 3 full seasons in the second tier have seen record points, 94, 97, 90, with Leeds currently on 94 with 2 left to play. However, his Premier League performance in East Anglia is known to have triggered some thoughts in the Yorkshire club's US-based owners, the 49ers. In his first top flight season, the Canaries finished bottom with 21 points, 14 from safety, and he was sacked in early November of his second with his side on 5 points after 11 matches. Leeds are unlikely to pull the trigger unless they have a replacement lined up that they believe will be a success, and it's far from a foregone conclusion. Should they head down that route, and should a potential replacement get off to a poor start, the atmosphere could quickly plummet. Farke or whoever is charged will face a complex situation as they seek to build a squad capable of top flight survival with an outlay beyond the 107 million Ipswich spent expected to be needed to be given the growing gulf between the two competitions. Find that level of money while complying with the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules will be a significant challenge. Accounts are evaluated over a 3-year period, and given that Leeds will be recorded as championship for 2 of those, the reduced revenues that brings, players will need to be sold. Interesting. Whether takers can be found at the right price remains to be seen. The club are also seeking to expand Ellen Road, although money spent on infrastructure is exempt from PSR calculations. Names such as Jose Mourinho have previously been linked with the job, although there is a keenness to find a lesser-known name should bosses land on making a change following the success of Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth. Indeed, ahead of a point in Farke, Leeds were blocked by Vallecano at making an approach. So, loads to look at. Absolutely loads to look at here, and I can see the opinions are flying in. So make sure you do so, everybody. But, yeah, I mean, Boardroom upset potential, Premier League survival fear, financial pressure and new manager targets. I think it's really key in this video to talk about what Farke has achieved. I think we all have to give Farke a hell of a lot of credit. You know, and I can be a big critic of Daniel Farke. I think there are holes in his managerial pedigree, but I like to see myself as balanced on here as well, and that's why I come on here and try give a grey area and give Farke a lot of positives, because he deserves that. And he does, you know, to be a manager who's got the points totals he has at this level is staggering. It really is. It's a top standard of football, and he's done extremely well, and his current record is 94 points with 2 games left in 24-25. He may be the best championship manager ever, and he probably will be the best championship manager ever. So why would Leeds even think about moving on from a guy who's done the job again? So with the 49ers, I think we're all very, very well aware that they're not mucking around. That needs to be said straight away. They are not mucking around. I think this is pretty obvious right now. I think we're all very, very aware that with this group, they want to, I mean, Parag afterwards has come out and he said he effectively wants to sustain Leeds as a Premier League club. Everybody can say that, by the way. Everybody knows that in general, you know, that every flipping club wants to sustain their place at the top level. Of course they do. But I feel with the 49ers and how ruthless they've been and their experience and what they've done, especially in other sports or the other sport, they have been ruthless. They've taken different approaches, you know, even when it's come to the youth system in the States. So it's very, very key to look at these little bits in terms of their track record. But with 21 points in his first season with Norwich, and he's also got, a 15 losing streak on his record as well. They are a data-based group, right? And the database got Daniel Farke in. Why? They got Farke in because he was the best man for the job, okay? But myself, and I think a lot of you guys have maybe queried how long-term this would be. Would this work in the Premier League? There seems to be a lot of notion around Norwich, but we've got to look at Gladbach as well, right? Borussia Mönchengladbach. Borussia Mönchengladbach were supposed to be, with Daniel Farke coming and taking over, they were supposed to galvanise and go for the Europa League. You know, they were in 8th place at the time. They finished in 10th place with Daniel Farke, and there wasn't a consistency. And there was a position taken at the end of the season to get rid of Daniel Farke by the sporting director at Borussia Mönchengladbach. So it didn't go the way they wanted it to go with Farke. He finished in 10th, I believe it was, and then he was sacked. But I do believe what they're going to look at is, I think they're going to take that into consideration because it's top flight experience. But he was sacked after 5 points from 11 games. And I think the Leeds United owners will be looking at this right now and thinking, can he survive in the Premier League, obviously? Now, the 49ers vision is something to look here as well. I think it's very obvious that they want a modern, adaptable, brand-savvy manager. I think the globalization is a key factor for them. And what do I mean by globalization? Well, Leeds being a global brand right now, which is what they want us to be. We're in the Premier League. We had the 6th highest shirt sales in the country when we were up last time. We were sold out every single week. We were beamed across the world. Leeds acquire a particular interest and they pique a lot of emotion for every other club, as we've seen already by the likes of Manchester United tweeting about us yesterday, near like 12 hours after we'd just been promoted. Leeds evoke emotion from every single other club. Every single other club, and we are a massive football club. And they know that, the 49ers. And I do wonder if they maybe think that Farke's style is championship effective, but potentially tactically limited at the next level. But we don't have any factual basis on this. He was hampered by Norwich. Borussia Mönchengladbach's a bit of a different standard, even though he sort of regressed a little bit with Mönchengladbach. But he did okay, finished 10th, but that wasn't in line with their ambition. Norwich, he was given, 30 million quid, 8 of which he spent on Josh Sargent. I just wonder the risk, and it's all about risk management, when you're an owner of a football club. How much risk are you willing to put into Daniel Farke? You've seen with Ipswich that they've been willing to put that risk into Kieran McKenna. And I think he's earned that. And this is the thing with Farke now. Has he earned it? A lot of people will say, and people in the comments will say, Connor, obviously he's earned it 100%. Look at who you're talking about, mate. Daniel Farke. 2 seasons with us. He's got 90 points and 94 points so far. It's not a bad total, that, is it? And he's got 2 games left. He could get 100 points with Leeds. But that isn't the point. We're talking about Premier League. We're talking about a long-term vision. And I think that's where the 49ers are looking at this. And whatever you say, however you look at it, he's got a bad record in the Premier League. He didn't adapt in the Premier League, but was he given the tools? I don't think he was. But are they willing to risk that? Are they willing to risk the money, which will eclipse what Ipswich spent on their squad, which is 110, 115 million, which they will put into Leeds United this season, sign in probably 7 to 9 players? Are they going to risk that with the manager? Now, I think they will. I think they'll go into the season with Daniel Farke. But it's interesting how this has been leaked now to a pretty decent source when it comes to the 49ers. Maybe not other things when it comes to the Daily Mail, Daily Fail. But when it comes to the 49ers, this seems to be an avenue of which they've gone down a lot when it comes to breaking news. You simply just have to type in Mike Keegan and 49ers news on social media and it will come up. And a lot of the time, it's the first bit of news. So something to keep an eye on there. The financial pressure as well. Promotion means spending. We've mentioned earlier it's 100 million to compete. And we know that Leeds' accounts, as mentioned on the article, reflect a 2-year of championship income. Profit and sustainability rules mean they will have to sell players, which has been reflected in that article. There was a lot of people talking earlier on this week about Nonso, potentially Strauch and Melier and players like that going. Leeds will have to be smart with spending. It's not just going to be an outlay of £100 million. Leeds will have to see other players going out the other way. And do the board think that Daniel Farke is able to do this in partnership with them? and be able to get certain players to a certain level? Are they convinced on that? Now, what the media is saying, so the Mail has said there is awareness that such a controversial move could backfire. I've mentioned this before. Leeds fans may revolt. Farke is loved now, I think, by a lot of the fan base. It's nowhere near the same as Bielsa. It's not on the same level as Bielsa. Nowhere near. There's absolutely nowhere near. He's on the same level as Bielsa, where all of us loved him. Some of us thought he should have gone at that point, but now with hindsight and where we've been, would I have kept Bielsa? Yes, I would. And I was always wondering at that point, get rid of Bielsa and bring in someone like Gallardo, bring someone like Iraola in, and we could have seen Bielsa's hallmarks still instilled at Leeds United, but then taken to a new level, an adapted level. That's how I wanted Leeds to go. Leeds didn't go down that way. We went the complete opposite way, which I think killed it. But, if I'm to ask you the question again, do you turn around here? And if someone said to you, Marcelo Bielsa, we mentioned this a couple of months ago, the 49ers have gone in for him before, we know that. If the 49ers went in for Marcelo Bielsa, would you all say no? I think there's 99% of you who would say yes. I don't think that'll happen. But would you say no? I don't think any of you would. I don't think any one of you would choose Daniel Farke over Marcelo Bielsa. I don't think you'd do it. And I wouldn't say you'd be wrong for that. I don't think that would be a case. But it's interesting, isn't it? But I think there is a love for Daniel Farke with what he's done. I do understand that, and I completely get it as well. And I love what he's done for Leeds United. Of course I do. But I, as a content creator, as a football fan, I do think long-term it is at my detriment sometimes because I don't enjoy the moment, which is what I've been trying to do this time. But I also think that there should be questions at Daniel Farke's door for long-term sustainability at this club and success with this club as well. Pass link to Mourinho adds a little bit of spice, doesn't it? But I think they'll have probably seen success of Iraola, style wild card. And I just want to bring up as well, everybody, just the list of managers in the Premier League. Let's just have a quick look at these. And these are just now, by the way. So a lot of these could get done in and sacked off. So David Moyes, Eddie Howe, Pep Guardiola, Thomas Frank, Unai Emery, Marco Silva, Graham Potter, Nuno, Mikel Arteta, Arne Slot, Ruben Amorim, Kieran McKenna, Postecoglou, Maresca, Glasner, Fabian Herzler, Nistelrooy, obviously, who's gone down, it looks terrible. Vito Pereira, who's come in with a hell of a lot of spice, hasn't he? A lot of these. I'd take Maresca out there. I think he's gonna get binned off at Chelsea. Nistelrooy's gonna get binned off. Postecoglou could win a European trophy this season, but I think we'll get binned off in the long term. But there is some very, very good managers up there. Very, very good managers who are able to adapt, change things in game 3 or 4 times. And maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe that's what they're looking at when it comes to Farke. I know there's been a lot of discontent with the likes of Melee staying into game week 40, 41, I think it was, which has really annoyed Leeds fans, including myself, for the majority of the season. There's frustrations at substitutes. There's frustrations at rotation and utilization of certain players. From a 49ers standpoint, bringing in someone like Ramazani, would they think he's been utilized enough as being that sort of star signing, which they brought in the summer? This is an objective perspective, by the way, everybody. I have my opinion on that. However, I'm going to give Daniel Farke a bit of credit. I think Farke has done very, very well with the likes of Junior Firpo. I think you've seen an improvement in Daniel James. I think there's been a genuine improvement there. I think it's his best numbers of his career. I think Tanaka's come in, but Farke has had to work with him. Will Tanaka be adaptable to other managers? I think he will. But Dan James in particular, I don't think would be adaptable to a lot of other managers. I think he's a very specific type of football player. I think Farke's done exceptionally well with him. Joel Peru is about to eclipse his total goal tally at Leeds United. That is an achievement for Farke. He'll see that as a big thing for him. I think there's been tactical adaptations this season from Daniel Farke when it comes to our fullbacks pressing high, our wingers pressing high, winning the ball back at Coventry and Watford and being very brave at doing that because you're exposed at the back against 2 teams who we've struggled at away from home the previous season. That was brave from Daniel Farke. That was pragmatism. It was tactical adaptation. So he's shown this season he can do it. Post-injury Gruev, different player this season, Manor Solomon, I think he will take that as a success as well. And he could say to the owners, well, look at Manor Solomon. We didn't need to have Largi Ramazani with the greatest of respect. We didn't, because Manor Solomon has produced what he's produced this season. Daniel Farke has a lot of what he can turn around and be like, well, look what I've done this season. Look how I've improved. But on the flip side, as I've mentioned previously, there is a lot of things of which some of us have looked at and thought, in the Premier League, you're going to get mullered for some of these decisions, you know? Maybe the stubbornness at certain points, but you need to be stubborn to be great as well. You need to be stubborn to be great as well. So there's positives and negatives here. There's pros and there's cons. Who could replace him? If we were to bring a manager in, is it realistic that Leeds United get a Mourinho? Is it realistic that Leeds go and get Bielsa? Or if it is the lesser known names, is it going to be your likes of, Francesco Farioli? Is it going to be Will Steele? Is it going to be Knutson? What are we looking at here if we are to go and pick up maybe a lesser known manager, of which has been on the circuit for a while in terms of rumours at Leeds United at points? But if that is kind of the way they want to go down, your Herzlers at Brighton, your De Zerbis at Brighton in very, very recent history, your Iriolas, Mikel Arteta. Look, I'm just using him as a young manager who's come into the scene and is seen as a very good manager. But your lesser known managers who spread that brand awareness as well. Is Daniel Farke a name who you need for the Premier League? Is that what they're going to be looking at as American owners? Is that what they're going to be looking at as American owners? We need a big personality to match a massive club. Bear in mind, last time we were in the Premier League, we had Marcelo Bielsa, who there's an argument he was bigger than Leeds United. How many managers have we had in our history who've been bigger than the club? It rarely happens. So they might be looking at that and thinking, we need a manager who is, look, there's Leeds in the Championship, and then there's Leeds United in the Premier League, of which we're all very, very aware of how big we are in the Premier League. You got to match that. You've got to be the guy who's the face of the brand. With the greatest respect, it's not Norwich City in the Premier League. It's probably not Gladbach in the German league. This is how I believe the 49ers look at Leeds. They are about to press the button on a 56,000-seater stadium. We're not going up and pissing around. So I wonder, and this is a club. So this has been, we're all so aware of how this has been drip fed to us, the trickle down effect. Leeds, when we do get back to the Premier League, we're not mucking around stadium, players, expectation, Europe, and we've heard all of this before. But you do feel with this lot that this is the reason that they came in, and there is a bigger picture here. It feels like we're building a little bit more. I don't know if you guys agree, and we're going to get into the comments in just a second, but it feels like we're building a little bit more than just a team. It's a Premier League identity. We've mentioned the stadium expansion as well. I think the owners, it's obvious that they want Premier League mainstay with smart recruitment, modern football, and long-term growth. Do they think Farke was the man for the journey? Not for the destination. If they're looking at people now, and they're aware of people now, and do you know what? It makes me think as well. It makes me think, some of the bits that Farke has been saying, where a lot of it has been, him almost like saying, it's like thing the other day, which I thought was like, whoa, not in terms of a bad thing. Not in terms of a bad thing, but when he was mentioning that he wasn't like not backed. He didn't use that word. And you've got to get your language right here. So stay with me and don't take what I'm saying as verbatim. But he mentioned that he feels that he wasn't able to add in January, and he was almost envious of other clubs. The 49ers might have looked at that and thought, right, well, we've given you an Avengers style team of which is the best in the division. And I firmly believe they believe it's the best in the division as well. And we're at this position right now with a team that stamina-wise throughout the season has been very good in terms of players available. A lot of them have performed at a very good level, and the options have been staggering really at championship level. So maybe they look at that and go, is he, and maybe we look at that and we go, I mean, from a 49ers perspective, I wish he kind of wouldn't say that. And B, from a Leeds United perspective, do we kind of look at that and go, well, maybe, as I can see Ross in the chat, Leeds United Calypso in there, maybe, I don't know, he knows and he's aware that his job might be on the line in the summer, and he's almost giving himself these excuses. They're not excuses. They are, it's validation, isn't it? And he's right a lot of the time. We didn't add in January. Burnley did. Sheffield United did. And he's managed to get Leeds United to the top of the division right now and likely will win the league. So that is a big tick on his book. Of course it is. But at the same time, he should have won the league with this side. And normally a wage structure reflects that. We all knew he probably should have won the league with this side. And I'm eternally grateful for Daniel Farke for doing that. And there is absolutely no shit. Sometimes I don't agree with what he says, but sometimes I think he's done things very, very well this season, as I've mentioned. On this channel, we've been big supporters of Leeds United this season, and we've been very positive. But when the shit has hit the fan, and we've noticed some things in certain periods, which have been very recent, we have looked at it and gone, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. Melee should not be still in the starting lineup. We shouldn't still be just only pushing the button on substitutions on the 70th minute. We shouldn't see this sort of lack of in-game tactical adaptability sometimes. However, Daniel Farke, as I mentioned, has got a hell of a lot right. And can you really? And this is the main question I've got for you guys. This is the point. Is this football logic, or is it corporate overthinking? Would sacking Daniel Farke now, would it be ruthless or would it be reckless? And I want you to tell me, would you stick or twist with Daniel Farke in the Premier League? Because the positives, he's got a lot of them this season, a hell of a lot of them. But if you're a business owner, which I know a lot of you are, or whatever, you've got people underneath you, or you've been underneath people and you understand a corporate structure, do you risk putting a hell of a lot of money into probably a certain style of football, a certain way of playing with a combination of Daniel Farke getting involved in recruitment as well? Do you risk that is the question. That's what this is all about. It's what football's all about. Do you stick or do you twist? Let me know in the comment section below as well what you think. So I'm going to get into a few of your comments, everybody, and let us know as well. We've got nearly 1,200 of you watching here at 2 o'clock. So please let me know what your thoughts are. Please like the video as well, everybody. As I've said, I wanted to come on here and try and give both sides of the story. As I've said, I've had a few issues with Farke this season. That's my personal stance as a football fan. But I also know that he's done a really good job. I think he's done a really good job. So it's kind of two sides of the coin for me. I'm a little bit like, whoa, didn't expect this. But I'm really surprised. And I'll tell you what, we'll show this now. We'll show a little bit of the Twitter reaction as such. And maybe this is why it's been put out there. Maybe it is out there because, they kind of want to look at it. They kind of want to look at it. I mean, Barron just tweeted out the councils agreed to negotiate a sale of land around Ellen Road for stadium expansion. Also agreed to negotiate with the Lowy family group for wider development. In other words, the redevelopment just took another step forward. So Leeds United are basically doing this again. So it's just starting already, isn't it? But I think what we've got to look at, everybody, what we've got to look at is, for me, Radrazani keeps Farke. You have got a bunch of American capitalists who are about to invest a hell of a lot of money again in this club at the top level. They're not going to care a lot, in my opinion. They'll want to test the temperature, but they will not give a crap about too many feelings. They're not, especially if they get the manager right. This is a very, very, very different operation. This is what we were speaking about with Gabe 6 months ago. And it wasn't popular when Gabe was saying it, but he was saying, look, they won't care. And they don't care. They will get to summer and they will get rid of him if they feel like it's the right move. So this is the thing. It's not sentiment. It's not feeling. And this is why it's going to be, I think, very, very different. Paul says, I think Connor should take the manager job and have Gabe as his right-hand man. I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. But thanks anyway, buddy. Mark says, I hope it's not true. Would like to see him have his chance and back in. He's such a calm manager. Helps for a club like ours. What about Sebastian Hones? He got second in UCL last season. And now he finished mid-table with Stuttgart. This feels real. There you go. And they'll be aware of this, Carl. They'll be aware of this. It very much reminds me of, do you remember Slavisa Jokanovic? Jokanovic, there was murmurs about Fulham getting rid of him. They went up with a mad amount of points that we've seen with Fulham over the years. He got into the Premier League. They recruited well. And he got 5 points out of 12 games and was sacked. And Ranieri was brought in. I think this is what maybe a lot of us are thinking in terms of Farke being given 10 games. But I guess when you look at it from a 49ers perspective, 10 games is a lot. There's 38 games in a Premier League season. 38. So it's a very weird. Like I'm over the moon. You guys know I've been over the moon. I've had the hat on. I've had the sunglasses on. I've been singing songs. But this, it feels. I think the redevelopment's just taken a step forward today, as Barron's just announced another step forward. So that's going to be happening very soon. Just feels like Leeds are going to a different level, literally now, and maybe the global view of Leeds as a brand needs to be matched. Maybe that's what they're thinking. That's kind of what I'm reading between the lines. Hey, Davey. Shout out to you for the donation, buddy. He's a brilliant championship manager. Prem is ruthless, and I think he's too stubborn and not versatile enough for the Prem. Cheers, Davey. Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you there, everybody. Some might not. Ross is in the building saying Daily Mail, definitely a main press outlet for the Niners. It is, guys. It's not. I'm not a massive. Well, I'm not a reader of the Daily Mail at all. And I'm not. How do I put this without offending anyone? I'm not a massive fan of the paper. However, what I will say is Mike's delivered quite a bit of 49ers news now. Quite a bit. I've always said on here, I think he's very good at what he does as well. Mike, yeah. And it does feel very much like maybe they're not doing it via the YEP. They're not doing it via local sources, but they're going a bit further afield. And Mike seems to drop a lot of 49ers news before everybody. So it's interesting. It is very interesting. Okay, Captain says, Mick, there are only a certain amount of games in the Premier League. Why would you give Farke 50% of the games to prove himself? And we've seen what he can do, and he's been out-coached by far lesser managers. Pat, I'm not sure if that's to me, mate. I'm not sure if that's to me, but I'm just seeing a few of your comments. As I say, guys, I'm not doing this. I'm a Leeds United fan channel. I'm doing this to, obviously, I'm going to come on. You guys are all asking me to. There's a few of you in the comment section and on Instagram to react to it. I'm going to come on and react to it and just try to give a little bit of a balance. Loft says 49ers aren't messing about. You have to be ruthless. So I tell you what, I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Get involved. This is why you need to subscribe on YouTube as well, everybody, because you can't do this on anything else. So I want you to tell me Farke in or Farke out. That is as simple as I'm putting it on the poll. Get involved, everybody. If you're not a One Lead subscriber, you won't be able to do this, so make sure you're over on YouTube doing it. Bob is in the building. Shout out to you, Bobinho. People saying it's suicide, knowing who's coming in makes no sense. They have to get it right, but keeping Farke can go both ways. It is risk management, mate. That's exactly what it is. And I do think this is a gauger. I'll be honest. I think they're looking to see what the reaction is. It's interesting when people are saying it's madness. I think we've always known this. It surprised me in the sense that it's come out now, 2 games before Leeds can potentially wrap up the title. But I'm wondering whether or not, at the height of emotion, they're wondering right now the peak of Leeds United's sort of emotions, how they'll take this sort of news. And I think it's been mixed, which I don't know. It's interesting. It is harsh. I'll say that. And would you like your football club to work to operate in this way? You want to reward sentiment, don't you? You want to not reward sentiment as such, but you want to reward people on a meritocracy. You get given a task. You hit your task, you hit your quota, you do it, and then to get sacked. I mean, it's going to do wonders for Farke if you think about it in that sense, because he's going to be like, well, this is an absolute joke. If it was to ever happen, it's a joke. I've got cumulatively, however many 100 and what's it going to be, 180 odd plus points for Leeds United. I've had a really tough situation last year with 10 to 15 players leaving the club, and probably the toughest championship it's ever been. I've come into this season and I could get 100 points. He could finish the season 100 points. Do you know what I mean? So he might look at it like that. But I keep having to stress this. He's not a proven Premier League manager. He's not. How far does that go? Not a proven Premier League manager, but neither was Iriola. But I guess they would look to maybe what Iriola's done at a top level with Rayo Vallecano, which was very impressive, that you could maybe transfer that into the Premier League, which Leeds evidently thought and the 49ers evidently thought, you know? That's maybe what it is. It's top level achievement. Can we say that Daniel Farke has had top level achievement? Relative. You know, not winning trophies or whatever, but has he had top level achievement? That's maybe where they're looking. But it is harsh. And also on that, how the hell can you keep Norwich in the Premier League with the money? Swall Mountain said the return of Bielsa. Genuinely, it wouldn't surprise me. They've approached him, haven't they? They've approached him. Chris says Simon John spelled it out. Both Farke and Parker never really got backed. It's true. Very, very true. Yep. I can't disagree with that. So it's a weird one. I'm feeling very weird right now. I don't think this is speculative to say that this is a... I mean, is the bigger risk changing at the manager? He's worked with the team for a couple of years now, hasn't he? But then balancing that out, every decision's a big risk at this point. Everyone. And there'll be fans who, if they get rid of him, they'll go 100%. If the next manager is failing, it will be, well, why did you sack Farke? And then the 49ers will have to answer that, or they won't have to answer it, but that's what they're going to be judged on. Because we remember what happened with Bielsa. Sacked Bielsa, and it was still, I mean, I don't think any Leeds fan properly acclimatized to Jesse Marsh. I don't think Leeds fans liked him from the off, or some did, some didn't, but it changed very quickly. He wasn't the man to succeed Marcelo Bielsa. We all know that, and we're aware of that. And I think we're all kind of disappointed, even though Marsh spoke a very good game. And then it went down. The succession planning was embarrassing from Leeds at that point. We were a League One outfit in terms of being behind the scenes. It was a total sham. It's not that operation now. You know, it's not that operation. But I guess they might be looking at the fact that he wasn't great at Mönchengladbach with where they wanted him to be in terms of 8th place, and he didn't achieve that, hence why he was sacked. And he didn't do it with Norwich either. So I guess they might be looking at Mönchengladbach and saying, well, he was given time there. That I think the two things can be true as well. Farke can be somebody who they might not have faith in at the top level and might not be able to adapt to the top level, but he can be an outstanding championship manager. And if he wasn't to be the Leeds manager, my goodness, imagine how many suitors he'd have at that level. So it'd probably work out for Farke. And you get people laughing at Leeds and go, why would you get rid of him? It's a big risk. Then if Leeds, as I keep saying, are looking at this commercialization, the globalization, and they want to bring in a big, big name, you know, Mourinho's never going to happen. Ever going to happen. It's not going to happen. It just isn't. But that kind of caliber, or as I mentioned before, you kind of young managers who's coming up and have achieved things at relative top level, which Farke hasn't done at the top level. That's what they might be maybe looking at. It's just such a huge risk. Nick P says, hi, Connor. He has to be sacked. This is so interesting. This is so interesting. Also, guys, what I don't want is anybody abusing anybody in the chat. If you abuse anybody and you start fighting in the chat because of a football opinion, you're just getting removed. Come on. We're still in a good spot right now. We're in the Premier League. It's fantastic. We can have these conversations, but we're still friends. We're still friends. God, let's not all be falling out now in the comment section. Kershaw says, I want Farke to stay, but I can understand why the club would explore more options. Cheers, Kershaw, as well, mate. I noticed you in there. Moyes guaranteed Everton survival going into a new stadium. 49ers want the same during the Ellen Road rebuild. I think Kershaw makes a really good point there. You got to think of the stadium as well. You know? You got to think about the stadium. They ain't, there's absolutely no way they're pressing a green button on a stadium and risking it, for me anyway. But Farke could get that right. Farke could get it right. And that's the big thing. We're not talking about Farke getting this right, are we? Sujal says, who's just become a new patron, shout out to you as well, Sujal. Your point is well made, but surely Farke has to be given a chance. He had nothing when at Norwich, which may be the case at Leeds. It might be Sujal, yeah. And it's not. I feel like I've tried to give a bit of a balance here. As I mentioned, I'm not Farke's biggest fan, but I think it would be ridiculous of me not to acknowledge his achievements and not to acknowledge the fact that he's been quite exceptional for Leeds United. but it's two different levels. And I think the gap's getting bigger every single season. And will they risk it? Do you then, what I don't like, can I be honest? I don't like how they've leaked this with 2 games to go. Because they have leaked it. The 49ers have leaked this. That is pretty certain. So I don't like this. He's massively helped win promotion. And he sort of deserved maybe I think he will get this. But without this noise in the background, a proper send-off without this noise. I think there has been points where he's become a little bit of a mouthpiece for the club as well, which I think is a credit to Daniel Farke. But I'm not a massive fan of how they've done this. I have to be honest, planting a bit of a seed there because it has been planted. It's so obvious. And I think there's going to be a lot of Leeds fans who are not going to be happy, especially with the dealing of Bielsa and the absolute, let's be honest, how embarrassingly bad they dealt with that as a football club. They're not going to be happy if Leeds United replicate that sort of scenario again. It really stinks of sort of, all right, we'll go and get a sort of mercenary manager and we'll move in this sort of era of just being ruthless with no sort of soul and heart. But that's sentiment, isn't it? That's sentiment. And we are a very emotional football club. We're one of the most emotional in the country. Hence why the pressure is so great on this football club. And when we have great things happen, like we've had in the past week, we are all almost like, your families, your everybody's crying, they're upset, they're happy. They might not be crying, but they might have cried for this point. They might not be big criers, but Leeds United do things. Leeds United improved my life tenfold. They kill me, but they improve my life tenfold. And we are a very, very soulful, emotional, sentiment-based fan base. We just are. It's Leeds. That is Leeds United. And this is going to put a lot of nose out of joint. This isn't to say this is happening, by the way. But if they can do it to Bielsa, which the 49ers are involved in, by the way. I know Rads did it, but the 49ers are involved in it. They can do it to anyone. They can do it to anyone. Start of last season, Murat's announcement was Farke had been appointed with a 2-year project to return to the Premier League. This has been accomplished. Never mentioned him giving him an EPL run. That is true, and that is true. Connor, he didn't get any backing, to be honest, from Norwich. You never know what happens if he's fully backed. I think he deserves a chance, although I like how owners are looking for candidates early. I think I'm with you there, mate. I think I'm bang on with you. Aid says, I think they will stick with Farke, but it'll be out there way before Christmas if things go south. That's the thing, I guess. It's how long if you are to give him it. AJ, sorry, says this bums me out. Like you said the other day, why do we watch football? Because it's the side of football I hate. Yeah, it is. It's ever moving, isn't it? It's ever moving, and it's sad. It's absolutely sad. It's absolutely sad. Of course it is. You want that manager, don't you? You want that manager who is there for a long period of time. It's what we all want. It's gone out of football, isn't it? You don't get managers anymore who are there for I mean, it's what, max 12 to 50. You might get 15 months. You might get lucky with a Thomas Frank. You might get lucky with a Marco Silva, but a lot of it is very quick. It's very, fast paced, and that is Premier League. I hate the Premier League. But we have to be there. The Championship is such an entertaining league. It's great, isn't it? The Premier League is amazing. It's the best league in the world, but it's going to be tough. We're going to have to dig in because we're going to be getting slapped a lot. And I don't like the Premier League, but we need to be there as a football club. And Leeds United are big enough to dine at the big table. And we should be in the conversation of Villa and Newcastle. Why can that not happen to Leeds United? And that's what they'll be looking at. They will not be looking at Leeds United with the revenue that we bring in and be thinking about Leeds in and around near the bottom of the table with a 56,000-seater stadium. We're going to be with one of the top capacity stadiums in the country, and we've just come up. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Ryan says, truth is, I don't know the answer. Farke deserves the chance, but I equally understand that why they're considering his opinion. Roberto Mancini says you would need to know the other option for it to be a valid question. Dean says, who is making this you know what up? They surely give him a chance for getting us up. I don't think it's not made up, mate. It's not made up. It's yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's very, very 49ers and Daily Mail-y. Chris says 49ers releasing the at this time is trashy. Going back to Bielsa sack him. We need to give him enough money for 3 to 4 new players and timescales to November. Let's see what he can do. Do you think that's what it's going to take, Chris? Because I was looking at the team today, mate, and I think there's going to have to be some serious investment in that side, bud. There's going to have to be some serious investment. I don't think it's going to be 3 to 4 new signings, buddy. I think it's going to be a lot more than that. Clive says, do you think he deserves a chance after what he's done? Maybe after 12 games, then change, but not before. Don't want the special one. Need a manager who knows the Premier League. I agree with Mourinho. Mourinho's not going to be there. You know, Mourinho, come on, let's be realistic here. Jose Mourinho is not going to be the Leeds United manager, but it's an interesting conversation of where they go. Amy says, would these rumours be some of what a tactic by Burnley to throw us off finishing top? Maybe, Amy. Maybe you could be right there. Loaf says, everyone says he's not proven in the Prem, but half the names linked aren't either. It's a tough decision. Glad I don't have to make it. Yeah, exactly, mate. If this was Parker, Burnley, we'd say it's sensible, says Aiden. Shout out to your donation, buddy. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think you know, it shouldn't just be Leeds. I wonder if Burnley are considering it as well with their obviously American owners. But as I keep saying, guys, if you think venture capitalists are just going to be looking at this and thinking, oh, let's bring in a little bit of, you know, I don't know, emotion, ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. They might be testing the water a little bit and seeing what the reaction is. But if they feel a decision needs to be made, the 49ers will get rid of Daniel Farke. And as I say, he was brought in, I think Parag said, didn't he, on his first thing, that he's a promotion specialist. I recall him saying that he's a promotion specialist, but yeah, there wasn't any sort of, not that they would have done at this point, but there was no sort of insinuation that it was going to be like, we want him for a long time here. We want Daniel Farke to be with us no matter what. It was very much like, you know, he's a promotion specialist. Dale says, also in my opinion, it's mad. This is coming when you're going in for the title. Creates a lot of noise when there's no need. I agree, Dale. I think this is going to be asked of him as well in the press conference. I think on Thursday, is it going to be, or tomorrow, or the day after? It's going to be asked, isn't it? And we're very, very well aware that he will give a long answer to this. So hopefully he'll just say something like, you know, I'm just focusing on the one ahead, the game ahead. We need 8 to 9 new players, says Helvete. We need a rebuild, says Aaron. I don't want Calvin Phillips back either. So popping up since we got promoted. Cockney White says, can you stop it? Mourinho's Cockney White, read the article. It's in the article, my friend. I'm not making this stuff up. Mourinho is in the article that Mike has spoken of. I'm not saying we will get Mourinho. Mourinho will not be Leeds United manager. I think we're all well aware of this, mate. But this is an article of which we are speaking of, which has been written by the Daily Mail. Mike Keegan, of which he has said and mentioned Jose Mourinho at the bottom. So yeah, it's something that we're going to speak on, of course. Imagine Burnley and Leeds get rid of both managers. They have had 6 losses in 88 between them. Absolute madness. Bad timing on the news, and you give both managers the chance. Paul says, but Connor, if we get someone in, we need to do it before pre-season so we can get them out. That's a good point, Paul. Yeah, that's a good point. And then it comes back to recruitment, doesn't it? The video that I was doing early on where I was speaking about Leeds United's recruitment stance, and is it going to be club-led? Or is it going to be so that you can facilitate all managers having these players, you know, all the managers being able to adapt, the likes of Tanaka and, you know, but other signings coming in as well, being to adapt into their style? Or is it going to be a flux of the manager and the 49ers? We spoke about Julian Vigel, if you want to correct me in the chat, I'm sure you will, being the Borussia Mönchengladbach signing, of which we are potentially looking at. And then we were told, obviously just rumours, but that very much stank of Gladbach and Farke liking him and us going in for him again. or us going in for him, and it was very similar to when we went in for Christoph Kramer as a free transfer, and obviously McLean and Sargent and Aarons, and Aarons, I should say, they're all obviously former Daniel Farke players. I think you can get away with that to an extent in the Championship, but in the Premier League, the recruitment for me has to be like club-led. If it is club-led, it's more successful. It's a sporting directors league now, the Premier League. It's completely sporting director. So you can't really have a manager making even sort of like 50 or 60% of the say. It's kind of just, here's a list of players. Do you yay or do you nay sort of thing. But all the work will be done in the background for Daniel Farke, and that's how successful clubs are ran. You know, there's in-depth discussions on it with Thomas Frank at Brentford and Giles doing effectively his job for him. In terms of just the recruitment side of things, which has obviously been set up by Matthew Benham, their owner, who uses the data model. You look at Bloom at Brighton as well. It's the exact same thing there, and it's a trickle-down effect from the top. You know, look at all the players that Brighton bring in. Do you genuinely believe Herzl knows all of these players? He won't, but they'll have been brought in for him. And he, as a coach, as a head coach, which a lot of these managers are right now, he'll have to coach the best out of these players and get, you know, potentially the best out of them, or a high sell-on fee. And that's what happens at Brighton. It's what happens at Brentford, and they make it work. It's a sustainable model in the Premier League, you know, and there will be people out there who've heard of Brighton and Brentford, but they haven't heard of Leeds United or are not aware of Leeds United, which the 49ers will see as criminal. Now, that's not down to Daniel Farke. Of course it's not. I mean, Leeds have been in the doldrums for the best part of 20 years, outside 3 years. 3 years taken out of it, I should say. But what you do have to consider is, going up, you do have to have a strong man, a strong captain of the ship who can deal with a lot. And he could be that. He could be that, Daniel Farke. But this is all of which we're talking about, the 49ers and what they think. So Giles says, call me sentimental, but I will feel bad if we dumped Farke in this moment of glory. I would give him a chance, but we have very criteria for continuing sacking in the Prem. Yeah, and I know, and a lot of people wouldn't think that I would, but I don't know why, but a lot of people would think that I maybe wouldn't feel like that. And I'm similar to you, Sujal. I would feel, it wouldn't feel great. They wouldn't feel great right now. I'm on such a high with my club at the minute, and Farke deserves a lot of credit. As I've mentioned 150 times, there's been criticisms there this season, which still stand for me. But as I said, he's done really well this season at points. And there's been things of which I've gone, yeah, he's done a really good job there. But it's romanticism, isn't it? But is that the fastest way to destroy any sort of culture? And then people would say, well, I want to come to Leeds United and build a legacy, but is that realistic anymore? Well, it is. You know, you've seen managers still try build things at football clubs. It's at relative level. Thomas Frank, Mikel Arteta, you've seen it. It can work, but you've got to be successful. Build your legacy, leave your mark. You know, you don't want Leeds United to become just a rat race of fast-paced, fast-moving Premier League managers. We've had that in our recent history when it comes to Grazia and Allardyce and, you know, managers of that ilk, Scabala, if you want to mention him in there as well. We've kind of built something now, haven't we, for 2 years? But I keep coming back to it. They're not going to care. They're venture capitalists. They do not care about everybody's feelings. They're not going to put all that money into Leeds United and take into context romanticism. It's not and this is the thing, it's not the modern day, is it? It's not the modern day, but this isn't the first time we've seen bits of this. What I will say is there are, for me, concerns. I think there's a plan A with Farke. I think he struggles with a plan B. And effectively never makes substitutes really before the 70th minute. And that's just basics. You know, we can go into more intricate things, but just those two things as a starting point, that worries me a lot. You're watching games sometimes with Unai Emery and Iriola, and Villa and Bournemouth look completely different 5 or 6 times through games, as in completely different structures. The in-game management is off the chart. And they're just two examples that, you know, because I think Emery's a fantastic manager and Iriola's just top class. But you kind of seen the levels that we're working at now, and the levels that we want to be near to. It's interesting. It's interesting. Wayne said, look at it this way. Managing a Premier League club is a promotion. We've all seen folk seen folk at workplaces we think deserve promotions due to hard work, but then apply for the role and are replaced. Yeah, good little analogy there, mate. Michael says, you wonder if they had discussions with Farke about recruiting. Maybe they don't see eye to eye, and that is where the news broke. You could be right, man. We're all speculating now, aren't we, as well? Jimmy says, combining the 2 seasons, he got promoted. Did he get something like 30 to 50 million? We should give him at least double that in 1 season. Give him a chance. Mark says, I believe that consistency is just as important. Let's back him and see where they go. Look at Man United changing managers, but not non-stop, but can't find the balance at the minute. It is working. CJ says, only trouble is if we sack Farke and get relegated, then we have the cheek to get Farke back to get us up again, then bin him off again. My God, CJ, you're living in like 5 years' time here, mate, aren't you? Jeff says, people still crying because we sold Archie Gray. Time to dry the tears and move on. Barney says, the problem with giving him a chance is by the time they realize he's not the one. I think this is kind of where they'll be looking as well, Barney. I think it's a really good point. I think, especially with recruitment, if he's got a big say in it, which I feel he's had a good, I think he's had a good portion. He's had a good say in some of these Leeds United signings. I think he has. And a few of, well, the majority of them have worked, haven't they? Of course, but some don't, some have, and the 49ers have failed with some of theirs. I think some signings they bring in and some that they haven't as well. I don't think a Schmidt and a Ramazani or a Farke signing. But you might look at a Gruev and you might look at a Solomon who are a Farke signing and they've worked. You know, there's positives and there's negatives on either side. But it is a tough decision, this. But a transfer window is massive. I mean, do you remember the transfer window where we had a transfer window, I believe, after we finished 9th and we brought in Firpo and Dan James and Klaassen, and that was it? We effectively relegated ourselves then. And the Premier League has developed so much more since then that I think we need to be, and I get it when it comes to sentiment. I think I need more to just be like, give him a chance. But then I'm conflicted because then I'm bringing sentiment into it. You see what I mean? I'm conflicted because I'm bringing sentiment in because I love my club and I do like what he's done. So then I bring sentiment into it. So it clouds my judgment. And as I keep mentioning, they're venture capitalists. They will not be bringing sentiment into it. So, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Really interesting. And it's be careful what you wish for again, isn't it? But what if it happened and you were like, oh my God, this has been the best decision ever? Ahab says, we have to go and get the best. We've got the money and the project. Reisel says, Farke failed last season. Let's be frank, Thomas Frank. He has achieved promotion this season, but with our squad, he should. He has now only just achieved. In order to stay up, 49ers must spend big, but won't with him. I think that's also a fair point. I think that's a fair point. I think it's an insane squad, if we're being honest. It's an insane squad at championship level. I think people who have said it's not the best squad in the division are just wanting to say that to give Farke almost more plaudits. So it's like, I've got mates who go down to Ellen Road week in, week out, and I speak to them on the daily, and they say, you know, Farke's done a really good job with this squad. And I say, yeah, he has. But, you know, do I think, you know, Scott Parker and do I think Chris Wilder would have, you know, arguably won the league with this squad? I think there's a conversation there as well. You know, there's a conversation there to then being able to do that. Because as Wilder said at the start of the season, anyone who finishes above Leeds United will win the league. It is a very, very, very good squad at this level, you know? So that's the context as well, that it's an extremely good squad. Ryan says a big thing in your club season in the Premier League is momentum. You've been off Farke and gut the squad, you lose any of that. Let's have a quick look at the the poll. So 58% of you guys are saying Farke in, 59% of saying Farke in, 41% are saying Leeds out. Leeds out? Oh, you don't want Leeds out. Farke out. Scottish Leeds fans donated £2. Cheers, mate. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Jack says Leeds City Council have just agreed to expand Ellen Road. They have indeed, mate. They have indeed. David says the one failing Farke has is that. Wait, let me read this again, mate. Sorry, I'll just stop. The one failing Farke has is the same that Bielsa had. It's the inability to adapt. We need to be able to adapt tactically on the Prem to survive. Be harsh on him if he's let go. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of us who are very much like that. For you guys who want the Brownie reaction, I did have a chat with Brownie a little bit about it. Brownie has said, let's read what he said. Where is he? Yeah, so we just had a chat about it, and then he said the timing will be wild when there's a title to win. And then he just said, and then we were saying, I just said that I don't think they suffer fools though in terms of the 49ers. And then he went, no, absolutely not. He needs a very, very good start. And then we just had a chat about how the 49ers are going to go big. So not a lot of you fans will be wondering what Brownie's been thinking. Dean says, I heard he was after Pope and Abraham. Would you get them if they came up for sale? And would you sign our loan players on a permanent basis, says Dean. It's a good question. Good question. There's some I would and some I would. Rothwell, no. Solomon, I'm just not sure. I'd probably say no with Solomon, but it's very, very tight. God, it's tight. I might say no to Solomon. I'm going to get battered for saying that, but I might do. But I might say I'm on the edge with Solomon. I'm very, very much on the edge. It depends on wages. It depends on how much we'd have to get him for. It depends on fitness. Again, can he be in a more athletic, demanding league? Can we, if we do get Manor Solomon and we pay a big fee for him, is he going to be able to cope for 38 games? Can he compete and produce more big moments? I think he's produced big moments towards the end of the season. I think it was sort of an 11 to 13 game span where he didn't produce enough. I'd need him to do that in the Premier League. You almost need some certainties in there. I completely understand why people would want Solomon. I'm not sure yet. I'd have to see the price, but do I think Leeds will go from? I do. Yeah. What else is there? Who else is there? The loan players. My head's gone. What are the loan players? I didn't expect to get answered that question, mate. Hold on. Loan players at Leeds. I need to get all of them racked up. In fact, you guys let me know in the chat. There's Solomon isn't there. I don't think we've got that many more, have we? Solomon. Who am I missing? Solomon. Let me know in the chat. Who am I missing? I don't think you guys are letting me know, are you? Rothwell, no. Rothwell, no. No, I won't be bringing Joe back. I think you can be a good championship player, and this is the thing. It's like we're talking about. That's what we're talking about when it comes to managers as well. Rothwell, I think there's a reason he's been let out by Bournemouth and never succeeded there. Southampton, I thought he did well. I love Joe Rothwell. I absolutely love him. And this is the thing, guys. I hope you always know with this channel in particular, I will be balanced. Rothwell, you know how much I love him. You know how much I love him, When he wasn't playing, it's not an I told you so thing, but when he was being called this, that, and the other, when he wasn't even playing, how rubbish he was because Farke wasn't playing him, I was saying that Joe Rothwell would be a good player. Very, very good player, and I want to see him in the starting 11 because you'd watched him at Southampton. You knew he was a technically good footballer at championship level. You knew he could move the ball well. You know he could drive through that middle. You knew he'd have a really good balance with a defensive double pivot player. Rothwell has been really good. He's been a really, really good signing for Leeds. A really, really good signing for Leeds. But I wouldn't have him in the Prem, no. The sentiment, again, you got to put it to the side. Shout out to you, Dean. Scottish Leeds fan again says, I think the 49ers have been thinking about this for a while. Yeah, so do I, mate. So do I. I don't think this is out the blue. I think they've probably just tested the waters now, to be honest. Okay. NFFC, hey, mate. Yes, mate. I think you need to go big or go home. Make the Prem sit up and listen, but need quality. No reason why you can't stay up. I agree, buddy. I agree. Ollie says, think Rothwell will be a smart signing for any team pushing top six. Do you know what I think? I think if Sheffield United stayed down, he'd be perfect there. Be absolutely perfect at Sheffield United or like a Sunderland, depending on what happens with Job. If we go up and sign Job Bellingham, That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay. Steve says, can't believe the amount of Farke out so-called supporters on here. He's just got us promoted, for God's sake. Give him the required funds next season and we have a good chance of staying up. Steve, I hate this number one supporter stuff, Steve. I have to be honest. You can still be a Leeds fan, Steve. I know you're coming on here a lot, pal. I know we have chats and I know we disagree and agree and stuff like that, but you can still be a Leeds supporter and want Farke out for the benefit of Leeds. I think there's a lot of fans on here who are worried about the Premier League potentially with the manager, and they want Leeds as an entity to stay in the Premier League and grow. I don't think you're not a supporter for questioning that. And Steve, this is also being promoted by the Daily Mail, which has definitely been leaked by the 49ers. So this is a stimulus, mate. And to every stimulus, there is a response. But I think it's a conversation, 100%. What's your thoughts, Connor? Yes or no to this? I can see the point behind it. Remove the sentiment. Bournemouth haven't looked back since then. Let O'Neill go. Yeah, I mean, I've always said that I'd give him the start. And you guys can go back to, my God, 6-7 months ago for this. If we get up, I'd give him the start, but it'd be an extremely short leash. And I would have club-led recruitment. Club-led recruitment. I don't want a mixed approach here. I want it like it can be. If it's because we have a data model that we recruit on, as the Brentford, as the Brighton. I'd like us to operate in that mold where it's not up to Herzler has the final say, De Zerbi had the final say, Potter had the final say, of course. But there is a recruitment which is ruthless, effective, and it's sporting director led. It's a sporting director league now. And this will be the ownership's fault, by the way. I wonder how much power they give to Daniel Farke in terms of these signings. And we heard Souček earlier. Farke's a big fan of him, apparently. And Julian Weigl, obviously an ex-Premier League, an ex-Gladbach player for Daniel Farke. Almost immediately we saw the Farke links. And that's not to say these were true, by the way. One was reported by Sky Sports in Germany, and it was a pretty decent link as well. I think it was Plettenberg who mentioned it. It was normally a really good source. It kind of feels very Daniel Farke there in terms of getting a couple of the old boys and bringing them in. And that could work for Leeds. Why could a Mönchengladbach player not work for Leeds? Could Julian Weigl come in and be an upgrade on Gruev? That's smart. 3.5 million quid. He's a 6'1" defensive midfielder. Dictates tempo. He's good on the ball. Is athletic. And he would only consider Leeds in the Premier League. That would be a smart addition. So that would work, hopefully. And it's 3.5 million. Could be a bargain. However, I just wouldn't want us to go down the manager-led approach to recruitment that much. I want Daniel Farke to be the decision maker, but I want our sporting director to be the recruiter. That's what I want. And I think that's a really good methodology and way of working for me anyway. So overall, I would give him the start of the season, Daniel Farke, but I want the 49ers to make their own recruitment strategy. I want them to deliver that. That's kind of how I'm at with it. Sean says, at least I know the 49ers have been listening to me on Farke. I'm sure they have, Sean. Leighton says, I really like Farke. In truth, my heart would want him to stay, but my head said we need someone else. Regardless of what happens, I won't be arguing. Spartan Hippie says, hi, Connor. What if Knutson at Bodo Glint becomes available? Would you be interested? Yeah, Knutson's probably someone who ticks their boxes, I guess, in terms of like a young manager. But I don't think it'd make. I mean, obviously he's been fighting in Europe as well, hasn't he? So I guess that's a relative achievement for Bodo Glint. So that makes sense. And I do feel from a 49ers perspective, they obviously rate top tier success, which is what Farke hasn't had with Gladbach or Norwich. So maybe Knutson's always been on the circuit, hasn't he, for years in terms of rumours. James says the thing is, if you're going to do it, you have to do it directly after the end game of Plymouth. Give the new manager the longest time. You can't half and half in the Prem, have to be ruthless. As I say, I'm not a fan I'm not a fan of how they've done this with 2 games to go. I don't think it's right on Farke. I don't think it's fair. But it is interesting. It's very interesting. As I keep saying, it's just how long do you go for if it's not? We're going to take some pummelings this season. We are going to take some pummelings. It's how, it's what if he does really well? That's not enough of the conversation, is it? What if he does really well? And then fantastic. That's kind of why I want to give him the first bit of it, because, as I say, the club-led recruitment thing is a big thing for me, but that comes from the 49ers. But what if he does really well? Then the decision becomes harder, doesn't it? Because I don't think he's their man going forward. I don't think so. I don't think he's their man going forward. So is it based on a meritocracy? Is it more than that? Is it a brand thing? Do they want a bigger name for Leeds United, the brand, with the new stadium and the glossy new shirts? I don't know. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Rune says, if the 49ers planted this, it's not very smart with 2 games to go. I think that's fair enough, mate. I think that's fair enough. Take Carlos. Michael, there's no way we're doing that. There's no way we're doing that, mate. But he's unbelievable. I love Corbran. Absolutely love him. Hi, Daz. How's it going, mate? Sammy says, never change, Con. Love your honesty, even when it's not popular opinion. You wear your heart on your sleeve, side before self. And it has to be said, if Farke went up, it's only... But if it's right for the club, it's best. Exactly, Sammy. Thank you so much, buddy. That's lovely words. Thanks, sir. But and that's kind of where I'm at with it. And on here, you have to be careful. You have to be really careful, because I don't want to upset everyone. I don't want to upset everyone. But I am a Leeds United fan, and you might deem me, you might think I talk rubbish or whatever, which is fine. But what I would say is, I'm not Daniel Farke Football Club. I'm Leeds United Football Club. That's my, and I want Leeds to do well. Is that with Daniel Farke? It has been, and it could be in the near future as well. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can only predict things. But overall, is he going to be here with Leeds in 2 years' time? I don't think he will be. I don't think there's a long-term future with Farke. But is there a chance that he could do well with the right backing behind him and the right structure behind him? Yeah, of course there is. Why not? Why not? Do I worry about him a little bit with what I've seen this season? Yes. And I think that's why the 49ers are unhappy. Or not unhappy, because they wouldn't be unhappy in the blooming Premier League. I think the Ilan Melier thing will probably bother them more than we actually think. The fact that took that long. Because and they'll be aware of the outside noise. All of us were perplexed, even the most positive Leeds fan, why it took to game week, what was it, 40, 42? Someone put 42 online, but I thought it was 39. But anyway, near on the 40th game week to get him out. I wonder if that is just in the back of their minds thinking, oh my God, like what if something like that happens in the Premier League? What if he's that stubborn and has his beliefs like that hurts us in the Premier League? But I don't know. I'll say it's all speculative right now. Mixie says, you have to keep him, in my opinion. Saint Marcelo still got sacked after one and a half seasons in the Prem. Get squad right, and I think will go well. Hey, Connor, I think there was talk of Jose Mourinho coming. We can't take that chance with Farke. No, mate, I don't think Mourinho's coming in. I think that's nonsense, to be honest. I agree with you, Connor, 200%. And he says, I saw this happen in America when Bulls fired their coach after getting MJ, Pippen in a win, Cederson replaced with Jackson, and 6 world titles later it worked. Yeah, exactly. And there's so much. Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, going from Gary O'Neill to Iriola. Don't get me wrong, it's very different. Gary O'Neill kept them in the division. And I think if Farke kept us up, if he kept us up, he'd still be sacked. I still think he'd be sacked in the second season. I think they'd go for someone else. I think there's no smoke without fire here. And they are very aware that they probably want to take Leeds, in their opinions, to the next level, quote unquote. And yeah, that's going to come into their thinking 100%. 100%. Yeah, Jose just signed an extended contract, but there are a lot of examples in football Hayden says just an anti-Farke agenda from the 49ers. James says might have always just seen him as a promotion. Might have always just seen him as a promotion specialist. If he isn't aligned with the recruitment, then they might want to. And that's it, though, isn't it? Imagine, right? We're looking at it right now. We all wanted professionalism from the 49ers. They've come in. We've dealt with the first, the absolute carnage of Radrizzani, Mooney, all the likely lads behind the scenes. They've dealt with that, right? For as many years as they did. They took full control, right? Got into it. All these players had these loan contracts, Jack Harrison and Llorente and all this sort of stuff in the first season. It was absolute chaos. We had to deal with that. And Daniel Farke also had to deal with that, by the way. But they obviously brought Daniel Farke in as a promotion specialist. They've got Leeds out of the division in 2 seasons, probably a season too late. But last season, look at the teams that we're up against. 2 sides of which hadn't been in the Championship for 11 years. One had won the Premier League and won the FA Cup. The other had been in Europe since the last come down. It was the most unusual thing ever. So we had a right task in our first season to deal with these clubs. Then we had the runaway train of probably the best League One side ever. The best League One side ever coming up and just being an absolute freight train when it comes to results in Ipswich. They've dealt with that. Brought some really good players in last season. I've got some really good expenditure when it's come to Archie Gray. Obviously, pure profit there. That's credit to Farke, though, for playing him because we wouldn't have got that profit if it wasn't for Farke. But they brought him in to bring in successes like this, a promotion specialist, but to develop young players like he did with Aarons and Lewis at Norwich, like he's now done with, the likes of Archie Gray. That's why he was brought in, to be a developer, but also to be a promotion specialist. This is a business plan, as I keep saying. American venture capitalists. It's a business plan. So is it likely that Daniel Farke sees 6 months? I don't think so. That's what I will say. I don't think so. It's harsh. And I feel like a lot of these opinions come from your heart. But what I would say is, tell me and inform me and let me know where you think, like, tactically, where you think adaptability-wise, where you think playing style-wise, this adapts to the Premier League and is successful in a sense of keeping Leeds up. Here's one from me. One from me, because I'm thinking live on stream here, everybody. I'm talking and I'm thinking as I go. This isn't planned. But I did a video yesterday, and it was about Leeds remaining in the Premier League. Leeds have conceded, 28, 29 goals? If we'd have had the goalkeeper sorted at the beginning of the season. So it's a two-edged sword. It's a two-pronged sword here. You've got Farke, who didn't want a new goalkeeper. We're all aware of that. 49ers offered him a new keeper in January. He didn't want it. Called him the best keeper in the division last season. So it's evident they all really rated him. So by that blind loyalty and that faith and that belief, it took Daniel Farke to that game week, 6 or 7 game weeks ago, to swap the goalkeeper. However, he's put us into a situation, even with that goalkeeper, where we've only conceded, 29 goals. So he set Leeds up in a way of which is beautiful for the Championship in terms of having a 60-plus goal difference or whatever it is now. That is some real achievement. And it also means that you can see how that would work in the Premier League of being safety first, not just being philosophy and playing style before anything. We're going to go to Man City and play out from the back. Oh, good one, Russell Martin. See how that goes for you, mate. We're going to play Arsenal at home, and we're going to play beautiful football all the way from Murich all the way up to the top to Jay Rodriguez. Well, how did that go, Vincent Kompany? So what you're seeing now is Burnley change style to a Scott Parker style, of which is resolute. They've conceded 15 goals, but we've conceded less chances than Burnley. So Daniel Farke has instilled that playing style. And if we'd have had James Trafford in net, of which there's rooms apparently we're looking at, if we'd have James Trafford in net, we'd have conceded less goals than 15. I think that is so clear. And I think that is a real positive of Daniel Farke. Set up the side like you set it up, but there's also, unfortunately, a little niggle in there with the Ilan Mele situation, because I fully believe this team is good enough, with the manager at the helm, the promotion specialist that he is as well, to have won the league with record points above Reading's 106. Easy. We could make 100 points this season. Think about all the times Eli Mele has chucked the ball in the back of his net or not saved us. How many times has he prevented Leeds from going behind? Can you maybe think at Coventry once when he made a really good save there? Two good saves. But unfortunately, over a 2-year period, Farke's sticking with Elan Melier, not just this season, last season when he was in a minus deficit when it came to goals prevention and was, I think, 17th in the table for save percentage. That's Daniel Farke. So it's two things to think about here. It's decisions like that, but it's also the framework which he's got us in right now, which amplifies conservative football, but control, but a strong rear guard as well. You know? So is that him adapting? Because he wasn't famous for that at Norwich. You know? Is that him adapting? Has he shown development there? But then you've got the Daniel Farke huge problem here, which we see in a couple of different instances when it comes to maybe tactical inflexibility, having plan A and that's it, being schooled by certain managers who we just can't seem to get around, Eustace, Russell Martin, and then the stubbornness at points of which you're like, Daniel, come on, you know? So it's kind of weird how it works. There's positives and there's negatives. So it's difficult. DJ says, if they're data-driven recruitment-wise, I wonder how many managers survive their first year in Prem. Damage potentially done at the point, promotion, money spent. Well, I guess, DJ, that is true. But I'm kind of looking at case in point being Brentford. You know, they were able to survive and then they built as a football club. But just because you're data-driven doesn't mean that it goes down the pan. You know, Fulham are the exact same, aren't they, as well, as a key recent example. Captain Ahab says, we're talking about replacing players. Why not the manager? Andy says, 49ers are spot on. There's not too many businessmen. They're not businessmen for nothing. There's 59% of people now saying Daniel Farke in. Interesting. Brett says the problem with Farke is he makes changes far too late and also struggles to change the formations at times, which can be a problem if the current lineup isn't working. Damien says, we also have the best team in the league. We go from being top dog to runt of the litter. Not sure if anything he's done this year would suggest either way it would be successful or not. Fair enough. Aaron, I don't know what that means. We are giving him a lot of credit on here, mate. It's like, come on, mate. Try to be a little bit balanced there. Farke should have had Leeds in the Prem last season, failed. He got a second try. Might have been deja vu. Yeah, I think you do need to give him a little bit of credit, though. Sharpie says, we had no money for January editions. If this was false, maybe that's where the divide is. Farke wanted a forward edition, the board wanted. Yeah, that's true, Sharpie. It's not a bad point, mate. It's not a bad point there at all. And he's been, you can't say with Farke that he's not been vocal. He's been very, very vocal. We've heard about the central attacking midfielder. We've heard about an attacker. We heard a couple of days ago that he was jealous and he was envious of effectively Sheffield United and Burnley with the additions they made. I wonder if the 49ers have heard that and just gone, are you serious, mate? Really? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I wonder. I'm speculating. I'm hypothesizing, of course. Or they might look at it and go, yeah, fair enough. He's right. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. He's breaking all the records. Why second record break? That's fair enough, Matt Poole. Fair enough. Mikey says, now, let's keep it friendly. It's all opinions, and time is the only thing that will bring on. Yeah, exactly, mate. Bring on the Premier League, 100%. What's the point in having Farke for 8, 10, 12 games if he does rubbish and we sack him? No one will want to join us. Yeah, I guess it's the mid-season stuff, isn't it? It's the mid-season stuff, I guess. 100%. I'd agree with that, buddy. Who's to replace Farke? I don't know. I don't think it'll. I'm not 100% sure it'll have just been linked something. Jimmy's just messaged me saying Leeds interested in James Trafford. Apparently we are, according to Nixon. According to Nixon, we're interested in him, which should be interesting. I don't really know how that works. You forgot my super chat, Condog. Have a pal. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I've just seen it now, buddy. Farke is not the man to get Leeds into Europe. Well, that's true. I guess the first bit of it, Brandon, is consolidating, though. Is consolidating. I don't know, Brandon. Just press join, mate, where the subscription is, mate. I have no idea. Might be a YouTube thing, buddy. Does Peru keep us in the Premiership, Connor? He does not, I know. He does not. He does not. Harry says he's earned his opportunity at zero backing in his last 2 attempts with the club. Who financially aren't in the same world as a Premier League Leeds United. We need 5 players in minimum, mate. I think minimum. MH says when building a business, you hire based on where you're at that stage of growth and level up accordingly. If they feel the ceiling with Farke is X, and that's a really mature way of looking at it, MH. Yeah. It's a really mature way of looking at it, mate. When building a business, you hire based on where you're at that stage of growth and level up accordingly. Yeah, I think that's a. I guess it's just whether or not you think this guy's worth it. The thing about the 49ers is they're not here to skim money from the club on a year-by-year basis. The aim is to significantly increase the value of the club, 100%. Leeds won't mess about this year, it seems. Burnley losing Trafford would totally damage them before. Yeah, I agree. Ahab, I don't know what you're doing, mate. Are you just slagging everyone off in the chat? Guys, what's Ahab's vibe? I'm not liking the vibe, buddy. I'm not liking it. We are promoted. We're all together. This is just an opinion-based thing. I want to give you a chance, but I'm feeling you going at people. Or you're just going at me, which is fair enough. But we're not having abuse in here, mate, at all. So, yeah, I'm going to give you a chance, but if you keep it up, mate, you're getting banned. Brandon's a new member. Shout out to you, man. Just seeing you there, buddy. I'd hate to be a board member in scenarios such as this. I agree, mate. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. But look, if you want my stance, as I say, this is why I've always mentioned it being a grey area for me. I've always mentioned it being a grey area. I think Leeds should give Daniel Farke a start. My concerns with Farke, I don't need to go over this again, but my concerns are if it's a transfer window, you set yourself back, don't you? And I don't know if we're going to recruit for Farke's style. And then another manager comes in who's a different style, like it was with Bielsa and Jesse Marsh. So you've got to get that right. You've got to get that right. And do you waste time on Daniel Farke if you effectively, if we can all predict the outcome? Or do you give him a chance and back him with 150 million quid? It's so interesting. It is so interesting, right? Ahab, you're going to have to go, buddy. Sorry, mate. I gave you a chance, but it just seems like I don't get why people are like this. It's very odd. He's gone. It has to happen. Who do you like to see as in manager? To be honest, mate, starting the season, I wouldn't mind Farke in, to be fair. I wouldn't mind Farke in. I don't think that's a bad thing at the minute. They'll only increase the value of the club by pushing them up and keeping them where they are. So it'll be ruthless to achieve. I agree. DBG, hi, mate. What are we going to do when we inevitably sack him after 5 points from 9 games and all of the best managers are avoiding? This is a good point as well. This is a good point from DBG. I think the thing is, you're always going to be an attractive proposition as Leeds United manager in the Premier League. That's the context. It's not always going to be Leeds United, not always, but in the Premier League, the top 20 jobs in Europe, effectively, isn't it? With budgets and, the wages that you're going to get, to spend, but also your salary. It's always through the roof for Premier League clubs. We all know that. I mean, we've seen that as a microcosm with the agent fees as well being released this week. But this is a really good point. I think I mentioned, and this is maybe where I'm wrong as well. Maybe I'm wrong here. And I'm involved in sentiment, but I'm also involved in my head a little bit as well. And it's hard. It's really hard. So 5 points in 9 games, the best managers, because the best managers will want a project. They'll want their own players. They'll not their own players as such, but, recruitment-led players, hopefully, if we get a manager in, but they'll want players who fit their system. If we recruit for Daniel Farke, which is why I think it should be club-led, but I don't know if Leeds is with Farke, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like it with the players that we've been linked with. But if it is club-led, all the players that we bring in are transferable to systems. They're transferable to each manager. We have a playing philosophy which adheres to every single manager that comes in. They all play a certain style of football of which we adhere to. If you go from one to another, like we did with Bielsa and Marsh, it's completely pointless. It's an absolute you-know-what show. So you have got to bear in mind, though, the managers that you do want, especially the young upcoming ones who are not just going to blow the reputation. We saw that with Iriola. We saw that with Arne Slot when Leeds were just embarrassing in that final season in the Premier League. When we tried to get Feyenoord's about to be league-winning manager for like the first time in 40 years or whatever it was, Leeds went up and knocked on Arne Slot's door and went, "Do you fancy coming in, mate? Fancy coming in and saving us from relegation?" And Arne Slot just went, "No." And kind of you look where he's at now. Obviously, yeah, when we did something similar with obviously Iriola, Vallecano blocked it, and you look where he's at now. But managers will want the best chance of doing their job. Of course they will, and some will take that risk. But you are going to narrow that pool. I think DBG makes a really good point here. You are going to narrow that pool if you effectively get rid of Farke 10 games in, and you're not doing that well, and then you just go, all right, well, we'll just go knocking around then. And that's maybe what they're thinking. That's maybe what they're thinking, potentially. And a lot of people do say Farke is a temporary manager. I can already see that in the chat. Brandon says, how much can we actually spend? I've never understood because we are because we are minted compared to other clubs. I'm not sure, buddy. I'm not sure. I couldn't give you that fee. Amy's in the building. Hi, Amy. So who, Connor, in your view, replicates both Farke's style and another Premier League potential manager? What do you mean there, Amy? Are you saying someone who is a Premier League manager and just replicates Farke's style? Is that what you're asking? Amy, this is kind of the dangerous things with doing this. I can't tell you this, and because if I come out now and I'll be like, replace Farke with so and so, I will never live that down, and it doesn't make sense for me to do that either, because I would start the season with Daniel Farke, but I also understand the pitfalls in doing that as well if it's not to go well. But I don't have a manager that I'm going to tell you. All I can tell you is it's a grey area with Daniel Farke, but you can't keep hold of Daniel Farke because you can't think of another manager. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. You can't, your reasoning for keeping Daniel Farke, in my opinion anyway, and it's subjective, of course, but I think that would be a ridiculous stance to take, is, well, who else are we going to get? The Leeds United Football Club in the Premier League. We should be able to attract a hell of a lot of managers, a hell of a lot of good managers as well. Very good managers. We're a very attractive proposition right now. Really are. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure that the line can be, well, who would we get? Because for stuff like that, it's nonsense anyway. Heard it with Peru. Yeah, I've heard it with Peru. Number 10. Well, who would we get in the Premier League? A fair few strikers if you recruitment spot on and you're hitting the necessary targets. Jasper says we have to keep sentiment out of it. I don't think Farke's up to it. It's such a precious prize when we have been back in the Prem. We have the best. We need the best manager available to keep us up there. Who would you guys, with what Jasper said there, if they were to replace him, who would you look at? Who, with what we're talking about, the points of which we're speaking about, who do you think they should be looking at? Are there any names in the chat? Realistic chat. Not Jose Mourinho. That is just not happening. But let's have a quick look at the poll. 60% are saying keep him in. That's rising, by the way. Klopp, Poch. No, I don't think so. Goldie says it's a ballsy move, but we need to make sure we get a proper manager that would suit us. If we do sack Farke, potentially wouldn't keep him. Connor, why don't you put your CV in, lad? Mate, you won't want me as manager. You won't want me as manager. Apparently someone's been broken on TalkSport. Just on TalkSport, someone from Leeds is joining the Everton staff list along with Angus Kinnear, but not sure it was. Yeah, I think we've got another one. Is it, who else is joining? Who else is joining? Nick Hammond, is it? Yeah, I thought it was Clark. I was going to say that, but I thought I'd sound like an idiot. It was Nick, wasn't it? I was asking, who do you think would fit the bill? Sorry, I wasn't. Oh, sorry, Amy. Do you know what, Amy? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And I'm not going to profess to be a fountain of knowledge here, mate. I'm really not. I don't know right now. I don't know. And I know you're not saying that as well, Amy, but I do hear this a lot. H says, I'm really torn. It would have to be a big name manager to sit right with me, and they're given pre-season. This is the thing, innit? They have to. It really has to be pre-season if they are to do it. Mm, yeah, that. Mm, not this would never happen because I think the structure at Brentford's unbelievable. He likes Leeds, doesn't he, Frank? I always thought he was very, 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 very positive about Bielsa in particular at Leeds. It would never happen. Well, would it ever happen? I don't know. If the 49ers are to chuck ridiculous amounts of money at him, give him a different challenge. There is a nice little Danish Leeds link as well, isn't there, in terms of support? Stranger things have happened, but it's a big risk for him, isn't it? But you wonder if he'd ever. I think Frank's next career move is probably something higher. I know at the start, Scum were looking at him, weren't they, and thinking, might choose someone like it, but someone like him would give you pause for thought, wouldn't it, as a Leeds fan? I'm not saying that would happen. I'm not saying that I want that, but pause for thought would be someone like Thomas Frank, wouldn't it? If someone said to you, right, Thomas Frank's on the table, he's had his journey with Brentford, he's loved every minute of it, he wants to find a new challenge, and the 49ers are chucking that money at him. And it's different, and he's always been very complimentary of Leeds, hasn't he? The fan base always likes the club. Spoke very highly of Bielsa when he was in charge. Always said it was a tough place to come, tough place tough team to play. He's actually complimented the fans as well a few times, hasn't he? So I don't know. Would you, if someone said Thomas Frank, I'm going to ban you, you little menace. Oh, dearie me. Spreading poison. Thomas Frank will be the next Spurs manager. That's kind of where I'm looking at, to be honest. But if it was hypothetical, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate that. You got to be. I'm trying. It's quite nice. This. I'm not getting that much abuse. Normally, you come on here and it's not even just fans' opinion. It's just people who don't like me. So, this is the chat's good today. It's good. I still need moderators though. Tuppy says, is it bad being a yo-yo team? Keep milking the parachute payments. And to be honest, Tuppy, I think that's a lot. It's the way of the world now when it comes to these. If you're able to break it, then you've done so well. But let's be honest, mate. It's only 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that Fulham, Bournemouth, and there was another one with the Forest. Fulham, Bournemouth, Forest all survived. Brentford, not that long ago. Seems long, but not that long ago, really, when you look at the Premier League period, Oh, it was Fulham as well, wasn't it? Not Fulham are in there as well. So you can do it. You can do it. You just got to prepare right. And these 3 teams, I think Ipswich have done the best, but the other 2 teams have been nothing short of an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment to the Premier League this season. Gasparini won't leave Atalanta for Leeds. No chance. Yeah, Gasparini, good name. Frank would be a good fit, experienced in the Premier League, consistent with top 10, knows the league, and has dealt with losing big players. Simeone, I don't think it'll be Simeone. Swampy says Thomas Frank would need to stop chewing gum like a cow. I think some of these names are a bit out there, guys. I'll be honest. They're a bit out there, but I do wonder how far Leeds are going to be looking at in terms of if they are to get rid of Farke at some stage. I wonder how big they'd go with an appointment. They'd have to get it right, wouldn't they? They'd have to get it right. Yeah, we're gonna AJ if you fancy it, mate. EJ, sorry. Yeah, people have been emailing me, and we are going to take you up on being mods as well. Just need to get round to it. This was supposed to be my day off, but here we are again, streaming for 15 hours. McKenna with money. Yeah. Top manager in McKenna. I like him a lot. I think he will be a top manager. Sonny says, Inzaghi, who could win the Champions League this year. Get him in. Inzaghi. Fabregas. Yeah. Ian says goalkeeping issues will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It hurts me so what it hurts me to want him out, but I have to remove sentiment. Yeah, I think doing that's key. Trav says money talks. New stadium project, new ownership will be attractive to managers. Yeah, and that's going to be the sell point, isn't it, mate? That's going to be the selling point, Trav. I agree with you. The selling point is going to be come to Leeds United, and let's say if it was a Thomas Frank, come to Leeds United, a 56,000 seater stadium. You get, Parag going, we ain't going down. We ain't going back down there again. You see some players coming in, and we go, this is what I mean. I'm so excited. Are you excited? I'm buzzing, what some of this is going to be, I think. This is going to be a mega summer, I think we're going to see some big movers. They've got to back this up. They've got to back this up. Really have. Mikey says, thanks for your content throughout the year, Connor. Big season next year. Time for bed. 12 a.m. in Melbourne. March on to go 2 more wins. Exactly, buddy. Title winners, let's hope. Thank you so much, buddy. Terzic wouldn't be a bad shout, James. Yeah, wouldn't be a bad shout, would it? That'd be nice. Like and subscribe. Yes, Hugh, exactly. How many have we got? On here? We've got, likes-wise, 514 guys, and we've got 1,300 of you watching on YouTube. Please do me a favor, slap a like on the video. I shouldn't have been streaming today, and I've been going for 2 hours now, or nearly 2 hours. Nikata says, I would keep him, but considering that Farke was relegated from the Premier League with Norwich City twice, I would go for Franco. Well, mate, I did mention him earlier on. Farioli. Yeah, I did mention him earlier on. Farioli, Knutson, and who else did I mention? Farioli, I've got him written down. I think it was Farioli and Knutson, yeah. But the context of that was basically like the young managers who they've mentioned in the article, or Mike has mentioned in the article. They kind of want to go down the Areola approach. Farioli and Knutson were kind of the ones that I guess would fit that mold. Not saying I would have them, but David says, Connor, if we are realistic, who would be your first choice? Good question, mate. Oh. God, I don't want to give a name because I'm going to get slaughtered. I don't know, mate. Someone, if we could somehow prize away someone like, I could see the appeal of a Thomas Frank. I could see the appeal. If he wanted a new project and wanted a new feel, he's been at Brentford for 6 to 8 years now. Is it realistic? I don't know. Got a 56,000 seat stadium. We go out and spend 150 to 160 million quid. You can see the appeal. Leeds United, he's been very complimentary of us previously. Would that be out the realms of possibility? Probably. Do I see it happening? No, but I kind of would see if they were to get rid of Farke, Frank would be, when they're sort of looking at the globalization side of it, the commercial side of it. Frank's been an established Premier League manager for years now. I think Frank can work at a higher trade. I've seen Damien there mention Frank at Spurs. I think that would make more sense, although there's rumours of Spurs being admirers of Scott Parker, which is bizarre. But Thomas Frank would probably be the one that I'd be like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. But there's a lot of, I think that'd be quite unrealistic, maybe. I can't believe we're talking about this as well. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Brett says, I've stopped drinking. We'll get you back on it, mate. We'll get you back on it. Trav says, would love to see Brownie running up and down the Ellen Road touchline. He's there every week, mate. Carl says, next appointment needs to be for the short term. Should Farke get the sack? Why is that, Carl? Why is that? I guess it's all sort of Premier League rubbish. I guess it's all short term, innit? Here he is, the man of the moment. Hello, my friend. Why are you not a member? Hello, Aragon. How you doing, buddy? The only thing that is now guaranteed is that we won't win the title. If there is a grain of truth to this and it's been leaked, and the whole group dynamic will be blank, and I'm annoyed at that. I agree with you, mate. I don't like the fact that this has been leaked now. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's fair on Farke. And it has been leaked. Ricky, I've seen your message as well, buddy. I've seen your messages. I will message you back, pal. I've just tried to have a day off, and now look where I am. Do you think you're getting ahead of yourselves? You think you should wait and see what happens first? If they got rid of Farke, it would be extreme. Yeah. I think that's fair, Ricky. I think it's a balancing act, mate. It's a balancing act. There's positives and negatives with it as well, buddy. Positives and negatives with it. Harry says, I don't think people understand how big of a pull we potentially have for managers and big players. Yeah, I think Harry's hit the nail on the head here. I think we need to readjust our expectations as a fan base a lot of the time. That's my personal opinion. You might not agree with it, but I think Harry's bang on the money here. I think there is, and I've maybe I think I've maybe had a bit of criticism for this whilst doing this, because I've always kept my expectations for this club this season very high. Best squad in the division, best manager in the division, with 2 titles beforehand. Incredible recruitment in the summer, which has brought in top level players to the championship. Ramazani, Tanaka, internationals, 15 internationals, standards up there. I'm not, and this is why sometimes I've come on, especially in that 5, 6, 7 game spell where we picked up 4 or 5 points in 16. It was not good enough with the opponents that we're facing, and the opponents playing better than us in these games. Sheffield United completely bottled it, and we hit into gear, which was aided by that squad depth. You look at James been out, we've not missed him. Nonto's been excellent in there. You look at the utilization of Schmidt a little bit more. He looks excellent in there. Gruev coming in, squad rotation, the ability to do that. Rothwell been out for 4 or 5. We've not had Strout, Rothwell, and James in for what, 3, 4 weeks? Maybe even longer than that. Nobody's even mentioned it, really. They're 3 key players for Leeds United. We've barely missed them. Ampadu slotted in at centre-back, been really good. We've had a massive keeper change as well. The Leeds United's main keeper for 4 or 5 seasons. We've just taken him out and put Darlow in. There's been huge changes that is not really in the context of how big this has been for Leeds, but it all comes down to not only Daniel Farke and how well he's done in terms of integrating these players in, but also the 49ers recruitment, which has meant that Leeds haven't really, all right, put one onto in there. We'll put Gruev in there, and we'll put Ampadu back there. We're a little bit nervous. It's not as great maybe as what it could be, but still, we'll get through it. And that's the depth. And we've not even spoken about half of them. Ramazani, as I've just mentioned, in terms of obviously him not fit in, but Ramazani, Joseph, Schmidt, we're not even speaking about these players. Verba, who have a really good reputation, but maybe just haven't developed this season because of chance given, or when chances have been given, they've not been great, but the recruitment's been so good. And when we go to the Premier League, it's just Leeds is, no matter what rival fans say, Leeds evoke emotion out of every fan base. They evoke emotion. And if you evoke emotion like Leeds do, you're a big club. And people know we're a big club as well. And the pull that we have now with a massive franchise behind us, we had a 60 million sponsorship deal in the bloody championship with Red Bull. 56,000 seat stadium. It's the possibilities are really, really high for Leeds right now. So we've got to stay up, of course we have, and that's the main aim for next season. It's staying in the bloody division. But then it would be nice to build. It'd be nice to build and actually become a mainstay in the Premier League once again. After 20 years of pretty much obscurity. So, but we have to adjust expectations a little bit, and expectations have been reduced because of where we've been. But Leeds, when we're in the Premier League with the backing that we've got, with who's in around the club now, it feels like it's an absolute gold mine, a proper gold mine. Do you think his 2 relegations would be in Farke's mind? Yeah, EJ just basically said about him having a plan B. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about a plan B. I think that's the problem with him, though. Aaron says, Connor, some of his decisions have been mind-boggling at times, but it has worked and he has smashed records. Interesting comment that, mate, because I'd agree with that, Aaron. I agree with what you're saying there, buddy. Could he get away with mind-boggling decisions in the Premier League? But it's worked and he's smashed records. So that bit, we have to give him massive plaudits for that. That bit, would that equate to that bit in the Premier League? Would be my question, bud. So Joel says, we're definitely a big pull and mustn't undersell ourselves. What about Lopetegui as manager if Farke is sat? Potentially, mate, potentially. But this is it, Honus, Terzic still, Fabregas. Farke is totally invested in the club to sack him after what... So Tony, that, for me, buddy, that's what we've got to get away from. Because that's not modern football, Tony. And I respect your opinion, pal. 100%. And I think, do you know what, Tony? A part of me feels like that as well. But a part of me feels like that. Some of you will have just joined the stream, which has nearly been 2 hours long. They're American venture capitalists. They'll care about feelings to a certain degree, but they won't really care. if they're putting investment into this football club, they're not going to, all right. They'll be bothered for a little bit, but if they're bothered for a little bit and then we bring a manager in and then we finish 15th in the division, they're going to love that manager and they're going to know that we've made the right decision. And I think the 49ers are ballsy enough to do that. But I think there's a problem with your comment there, mate. Farke is totally invested in the club. To sack him after what he did, he's achieved, would be too cruel. We've got to strip that back, buddy. We've got to strip the sentiment back. And I agree with you. My heart, as I say, I'm literally saying I want to go into the season with him. That brings problems as well, especially if they're leaking stuff like this now, because it's definitely on the minds, isn't it? It's on the Niners' minds. Because they won't be leaking that to their favoured source in Keegan. They wouldn't have done it. So, but what I need to hear is the tactical side of it, the adaptation, the evidence. I need to point evidence explanation, buddy. That's what I need to hear. I know sentiment in football is always a thing. Emotional stance in football is a big thing with this club, but we're all so emotional. Of course we are. You got to strip that back though, and we've got to look at it as the bigger picture, as we've mentioned before. Premier League identity, stadium expansion. I think the words cruel, unfair, sad, upset, it's not the modern game anymore. It's ruthless. It's absolutely ruthless. And you've got a lot of American businessmen running the Premier League right now. And we know it's ruthless there, you know? I think when you kind of look at custodians, actually, probably Radrizzani and Orta and the relationship they had in terms of like closeness and bond with the manager as well in Bielsa, with Kinnear and Bielsa as well, probably quite unique, even though Bielsa used to just take himself aside, but it is probably quite unique. But yeah. Bungle says, so why do fans have to throw emotion overboard and back venture capitalists? What's the point of being a fan then? You don't have a choice, mate. You don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I wish I had a choice. You don't have a choice. Simple. It is what it is. I think it's a really good point, but you don't have to back the 49ers. And it's not, I don't think it's a case of throwing emotion away, but I think it's, what I will say, Bunglers, I think it's a little bit naive to think that they're going to build that into their decision-making process. I think that's what I'd say. I think it's to think that they're going to build in emotion as a big part of their decision-making progress for them being back in the Premier League, aside building effectively a new stadium for Leeds, in a sense. I don't think that's going to happen. White Dog says Farke must know himself. He's not a Premier League manager in the same way that champ players aren't. We need to improve both squads to survive. Besides the new keeper, which players do you think we should get in? I think we should get Shea Adams in. Absolutely not, mate. I would not take any of those. Not one of those. Because Nakata, that's what I'm talking about, mate. With expectation, it needs to rise. Shea Adams, no way. I'd have taken Shea Adams in the Championship at a stage. Sammy Schmodix, probably in the Championship at a stage as a number 10. Vinicius is constantly injured and I think quite overrated. He's a good player, but I think he's overrated. I wouldn't take any of those in the Premier League, mate, to be honest. Christopher says, this has tainted the joy of promotion. Very bad timing on the 49ers, but I'd agree with that. We're talking about it because it's big news today, isn't it? But I agree. Completely agree. I think it's poor. If we sack Farke and have a woeful first 10 games in the Premier League, the fan base ain't going to be very impressed. I think you're right, Steve, there as well, buddy. I think you bang on. That's the risk as well, isn't it, mate? That's the risk. That is the risk, buddy. Dan says, everyone's saying take sentiment out of it, but when you do and look at the results, the data, where he's got us, then sense would suggest we keep him in for an initial test period of 5-10 games. I think that's fair enough, Dan. I think that's fair. And Dan, by the way, mate, I'm not saying take emotion out of it for me to validate your opinion. Absolutely not, buddy. Keep emotion in it. That's why we're here. It's why we run this blooming channel. Look at the emotion over the last 2 weeks. It's been brilliant. Of course, keep your emotion in there. I'm just thinking about what they're going to be thinking. And I think for us to think that they're going to include that in their decision is us making judgment based on a previous ownership who took judgment into consideration. This is how bad it was previously. You have a chairman of a football team DMing me on Twitter when we're losing 4-1 to Bournemouth. So this is what you're kind of working with behind the scenes, you know? And this is kind of what this club was previously, but it was a very emotionally led club, top down. And you knew that. They made certain decisions based on what the fan reaction was. I don't think the 49ers will do that. However, they have put it into the ether today, which is interesting. And I do think it is to get a bit of a reaction, but I don't think it'll comprise a decision if they are to make it, to be honest. Gambling owner says Leeds. Here he is. It's simple. You just got up. Just like you'd expect players who helped us to be moved on because they're not good enough for the Prem, the manager should be too. However, it better be a proven Prem manager. Yeah, I think, and that's it, isn't it? It's, if you go out there and look, I've said he's a good manager, but you go out there and get McKenna, it'd be a bad appointment. I like McKenna. I think he's an upcoming manager. But if they're comprising their, detail on a proven manager, and we're speaking about relative level in different top leagues, you cannot bring in McKenna. You can't do it, because he's not proven himself. So that would be a joke if they were to do that, even though I rate McKenna as a coach. If Leeds were to then do that, the premise of them doing it wouldn't make sense, because McKenna's not proven himself at Premier League level either. And he's not done it abroad. So we've not seen that. We've not seen that top level experience, that top level, getting it right. Derby Day says we need players with Premier League experience. We've seen Ipswich fail. Exactly, mate. Completely agree with you. They need a Rafinha. And that's what Leeds did recruitment-wise last time, where they were scouring the top leagues, and we picked up 2 or 3 of those gems, or they picked up one, didn't they, in Rafinha, but you can pick up gems like that. We've seen it with Tanaka. I know it's on the Championship, but that's what you need to do. You need to scour the continent, and you need to look at the top leagues and pick out some really good players based on data that can acclimatise to the Premier League. Rafinha was playing for Rennes. With the greatest of respects, I believe they were in Champions League that year. It was top 4. Leeds come up and we sign him. That's the pull of the Premier League, and that's the pull of what Leeds United can be. Albeit we had Bielsa there at that point. Would Rafinha sign for Daniel Farke? I don't know. Maybe that's comprising thoughts as well for the 49ers. Can Daniel Farke attract these names? Because the managers attract the names. Bielsa was bigger than Leeds United, or some of us thought he was. Do you need that? Do you need that pull? Not just Leeds United, not just the Premier League, but someone like Bielsa. Is that what they're thinking as well when it comes to attracting players? Have they already earmarked players? Have they already thought of players? Or are they going to go down the route of first? Are they going to be meticulous and work in a methodical approach in terms of just working it almost yearly, like annually? Like, what if they just did the 2 years here with Farke, promotion? 1 year, I can see people mentioning there Gary O'Neill, keep us up. Move on from Gary O'Neill. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Poppy says, apparently the club have refused to comment on news on Farke. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking a little bit. But I guess they just don't want to have the attention of it. The 49ers have a professional relationship with the club and sports, exactly how it should be. They make the best decisions for the club without being blinded by emotion. Leaking this just shows how bad judgment by the 49ers, which is what I agree with that, Bungle. I agree with that. I agree. It's poor today. It's poor. 2 games left. It is poor. Colin, do you think the news coming out today should derail the mood? I don't know, mate. I don't know. Hopefully not. I still think we'll win the league, but it's not good. It's not good. It didn't need to, and they've leaked it. Of course they've leaked it. 100%. They've definitely leaked the news today. They definitely have. Okay, as I say, Mike is a bit of not a mouthpiece as such, but they've leaked a few bits to him. And it feels like that's what's happened right now. Tom says, would you take Southgate as a Farke replacement if the 49ers do get rid? No, mate, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I need to see someone progressive. I'd need to see someone who is making me feel like they can keep Leeds up, but maybe there's a bit of progression there as well. No, not Southgate for me. De Zerbi could be tempted from Marseille. Brentford can't pay Thomas Frank what he's worth or give him the transfer budget we can. These are the types you want. Yeah, De Zerbi. Wow. Yeah, I think it's a big name. It's a big name. Someone like De Zerbi. Obviously, he's played, obviously managing a huge club in Marseille who are going to be fighting for Europe sort of year on year out. They can Leeds offer him that. But once again, we're just speaking about that Rafinha thing. Leeds get promoted. Renner in the Champions League, Leeds come knocking. Rafinha's at Leeds for a newly promoted side. This is kind of thing this is what I think Gabe's on here when he's talking about this. Brentford can't pay Thomas Frank what he's worth, or give him you just might fancy a fresh challenge as well. At some stage with Brentford, does it become a bit stale? I don't know. He's done an unbelievable job in sustaining them as a Premier League club. If Leeds came knocking, would he fancy it? And I can't believe we're talking about this when he's in charge still, but I think that this is interesting. Gabe says this could also have been something that ITK have known for a while. Yeah, a couple of other people have said that to me. Have they known this for a while? And that could be it. Could be. I think that's a really good point. Mike could have just released it now. So it might not be the 49ers have just said, look, put it out now. It might be Mike's known this for a while, but should Mike know that? Should he know that? Because he can release it at his discretion, can't he? Maybe they've just said to him, potentially, we're hypothesizing and speculating here, but maybe they've just said, look, don't do it. Don't do it when we're in the chance of getting promoted. You can do it whenever afterwards. I don't know. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 2 hours. I am going to go off there, but thank you so much all for joining. What I'd like to say as well is we have hit on the channel this month 1 million views, which I have to say is for me the biggest achievement I've ever had on the channel. So thank you so much. We've had 1,200 subscribers. Presumably, a lot of you are Blades fans and Burnley fans as well who've come over, and the odd Leeds fan. We have got quite a big number, but yeah, we've had 1 million views in the last 28 days, which is outrageous. The watch times through the roof as well. We've produced more than we normally produce. We've actually produced in this period, I think it's over this period, we've produced 68 videos, which is way more than I normally post. So it has helped. But your continued support, everybody, has been absolutely outrageous, and I really appreciate that. We've had 370,000 views this week. So thank you so much. I'm really happy you're enjoying the content. And on here, I want to stay on for a bit longer, a lot of the time as well, because I want to get as many opinions as I can, and I want to be able for us to have a proper conversation as well, and not just be an echo chamber. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back very, very soon. If you want to help the channel, you can sign up. Shop GNO, everybody. You can get yourself a signed Calvin Phillips shirt. 100 quid, absolutely free. Register with my link below, name in the chat. You might as well do it. There's loads of you who've signed up, but make sure you do it. Free membership worth 25 quid as well. And that will be announced probably in the next week or so, the winner of that and the winner of the 100 quid. So make sure you signed up to that. Shop GNO in the description below. Match bingo as well. Sign up to the lads. Why not, everybody? We've got loads of interactive bits coming, of which we're doing on every single watch along as well. Cheers, everybody. Really appreciate that. Lovely comments as well. Thanks as well, Lee. Some nice comments here. Thanks, I really appreciate that, buddy. Really fantastic stuff. And guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you in a bit. Cheers.